Hi, my name is Hannah, and today we're interviewing Stephane. Stephane is a serial entrepreneur and he based in Singapore. Today he gives us his view on business and economic trends as the curve flattens into a post-pandemic world.
This podcast channel is about you, successful international entrepreneurs, successful expats, successful investors. Sponsored by HCJ.tax.
Good morning, Stephane. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Derren. I'm fine, thank you.
Right. So please introduce yourself.
Okay, Stephane Benoist. I'm a French. I've been living in Singapore for 26 years now. I arrived here working for a multinational company. And then after a few years, I decided to set up my own firm. Basically, I've been, for the past 22 years, I've been providing first corporate support services to companies, mostly European companies coming to Singapore, coming to Asia, helping them setting up, incorporating company and providing them with back office support and a wide range of services. And a few years later, while I sold my part of my company to a mid-sized multinational consulting group. And with this group, I added some services also to, and in terms of international and business development. So on top of helping companies to set up legal structure and managing them, I also help them to enter new markets. So market entry services, business development services, helping them in acquiring companies. So it's quite a wide range of services. And 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago, I sold part of my company, and then I sold the full company, and I exited. I remained as a CEO for a few years, and then I exited the company 6 months ago. So now I'm starting a new activity. Meanwhile, I during those 20 years, I also started other company with more or less success. One was in education. I opened a bilingual Montessori school in Singapore. That was 4 years ago. It's still in operation. And now I'm looking more into still advising and assisting companies and entrepreneurs, but more on the, I would say more on the strategic dimension. Let's say that from 2 decades, I've been very much into operation, execution, on the ground, solving problem, which is always a good thing. And now I'm looking more at assisting companies and corporates to define and set up their governance on one side. On the other side, what I'm doing also is establishing and facilitating advisory boards. Advisory board, which is I would say quite interesting way to assist companies in their strategy, whether it's transformation or growth. So I've been trained for that, and that's something I want to do for the next 10 to 15 years. So more based basically on the foundation of what I've been doing for 20 years as an entrepreneur, as an advisor, a consultant, and adding a mentoring and a strategic dimension to what I can bring to companies. So that's where I stand in Singapore.
Okay, so I mean, 26 years, that is quite a considerable period of time, and you've met with reasonable success. And to those who may not know you watching this, you are quite a well-known and respected member of the Singapore community.
Thank you.
No, a lot of people know you. So, in that sense, what do you think would be some of the secrets of your success as a business person?
Oh, good point. The secret of my success. When I started, basically, that could sound a bit weird, but I basically followed some intuitions that I had at that time. I knew there were expectations, there were needs in the market for certain type of services, and I just thought, okay, let's try to provide the services. I did not rationalize it too much, in a sense, and it's what happening again 20 years later with my new activity. I don't know whether it's going to be a success or not, but it's just something that I feel it's right. I feel there's a need for it, and also. Because I'm aligned with it. This is something I want to do the same way I wanted to do it 20 years ago, the same way I wanted to do it 4 years ago when I opened the school. Basically, I could feel, and didn't go into some very extensive marketing and market research type of things. I could feel that there was a need for something, for a product or the service. And then I decided to jump and try to do it. So that's one thing. And then, of course, the other thing is to believe in what you're doing, to believe in yourself, regardless of what's happening. I mean, in Asia, since 1998, we've had probably 5 crises. Asian crisis in 98, the 2001 crisis, the internet crisis, the SARS, another type of pandemic, and the global financial crisis. But you have to keep on going. I mean, you have to be to build resilience. So that I would say that's one of the explanation. The other thing is I believe it's not a secret. It's a lot of work, hard work, for sure. You don't get things just like that. You need to work hard and have the right people. I have the right people also. If you really want to grow, you can't do it on your own. I mean, maybe these days you can, because the paradigm has shifted. I mean, you could be with your computer somewhere in Bali and running a multi-million-dollar e-commerce business. That's the reality.
Sure.
But in my time and a lot of activities, it's still, you still need people to work with you. So the secret also is to get the right people to grow. And last but not least is as an entrepreneur, when you found the company, is to accept at some point to let it go, meaning to trust people and to let go and to accept that people will do things in their way. They may make mistakes, as long as they are not catastrophic mistakes, of course. But that's also something that I learned, and that allowed me to grow the company when I decided not to do everything myself. So that's a few takeaways if I look back. Yes.
Okay, I appreciate it. And of course, now as you outline the challenges that the business community has faced, from the currency crisis, the great financial crisis, and where we find ourselves today, this is to some extent unprecedented. And many people would argue that once we come out of the lockdown period and the cure is vaccine is figured out and whatever, that business would be forever impacted. So what do you think? What do you see as being some of the changes that entrepreneurs would need to face going forward?
We don't have a crystal ball, but let's say that what I see, what I observe, and what I currently observe is that, there's a kind of a Darwinian element in this crisis, in the sense that the weak companies, weak organization might not survive, and the one which were healthy or sound and properly managed will survive, and some of them may even come out stronger. And I can see that. And so let's let's focus on the one that will survive. I would say. What I can see is that the COVID-19 has basically triggered an acceleration in the processes of, for example, transformation or search for improvement of the current process and systems, for example. So a lot of companies are using this time to do what they couldn't do before. They didn't have time. First, in terms of structuring, improving their tools, looking at reshaping the resources and the way they work. So that's one thing that we see, and I see in a lot of companies around me, actually, and that's very good. And the other thing also, it push companies to think more strategically on the what are the opportunities for new products, new service, new clients. I see companies today who start to realize that they can do with what they have without completely transforming the company. They may be able to service different type of clients, or they may be able to add some services. So there is really this aspect which is quite interesting. Definitely, we all realize we knew about it before, but we really realize concretely that the communication tools and all the digital aspect of the business is something obviously extremely important, and that will change definitely. I was talking with a few companies yesterday, and definitely they are looking at more and more e-learning type of services, a lot through communication tools like what we are doing today. We would not have thought about that 3-4 years ago, so that's what I can see. So a lot of opportunities, I think, in these times, and opportunities for the one who are really ready to take some risk and to bet on the future, assuming they have the resources, whether they are human or cash. And that's where it comes back to my first point. Weak companies that don't have cash reserves, that have poor productivity, poor profitability. That's gonna be tough.
So in a way, as you explaining that, it reminds me of the medical side. So people with pre-existing conditions are more vulnerable to what's going on now. So similarly, companies with pre-existing conditions may face greater challenges than those that were rock solid and healthy. And what about in terms of the wider economy? How quickly do you see the economy recovering, if at all?
That's a tough question. You see, I'm sure, like me, you're reading a lot of articles. You have Nobel prizes, prize winners. You have economists all over the world trying to decide to predict whether it's going to be a U shape, a V shape, a L shape. I think it's gonna be very difficult to apprehend. It's probably it depends. I would say it's going to depend on each country. The same way you're looking at each country has a different policy in terms of coming out from the lockdown. Not all the countries are doing the same. Some countries will do it gradually. Some countries decide to do it one go. Some will open the school, some will don't open the school. So of course, at country level, it's going to be very different on what's happening. For the global economy, there will be some impacts for sure. When you look at if you take the three big, I would say, poles like US, Europe, and China. I mean, of course, there will be consequences. On the Chinese side, definitely. It seems that they will have to accelerate their policy of producing locally for their own domestic market, because it seems the global demand at some point will decrease in the next few months and in the next few years, because countries may decide to relocate some of their production, and also in terms of supply, they may want to not to get their supplies only from China. When you realize that I think in some sectors like pharmaceutical, I mean, no more than that, 96% of some of the not the medicine, but what they use to make medicine. So the principal product is coming from China. So all these things are going to have an impact in Europe also. Obviously, there will be a lot of discussion and about what to put back in Europe, what kind of industries. Many things may be happening. The US also a big question mark. There was already, obviously, I mean, you know it better than me, but there was obviously already a trend to, I would say, to have an American-centric type of economy. That what's happening now may accelerate also the process. So if this is the case, they will be. If you take Southeast Asia, because we are in Southeast Asia after all, definitely could have some negative impact. I mean, if the big economies consume less and start to produce more in their own territories, there will be an impact for Southeast Asia. As you know, we are producing also a lot for the rest of the world, and on top of that, tourism is going to take a big hit. If you look at countries like Singapore, a large part of the GDP is tourism. You take Thailand, you take Indonesia. So again, people are not going to start traveling again. I mean, like they used to be. You know, it's not because you say, okay, lockdown. We end the lockdown on the 11th of May or the 15th of May, and then everyone is going to jump in the plane and go back to Phuket or to Bali or to Singapore. This is going to take a lot of time, so there will be a very negative impact on that on that one. So it's not it's not going to be an easy way out and to restart the whole economy.
Yeah, so that's a good point, that I didn't really think about the tourism aspect, and international travel may take a while to recover, and then capacity would be reduced because some of the weaker airlines may not be able to survive what's coming. So that's Southeast Asia. And then for the export-driven economies like your Indonesia and to some extent your Philippines, which export a lot of primary products, there's a decrease in demand, weaker commodity prices. They're already feeling that. Currency movements have shown that. Now, if I could pivot back to Europe. I noticed that Europe's response has not been as coordinated as one would expect, and individual countries are doing their own thing. And to some extent, individual countries have restricted movement within the EU. What implications do you see that this process will have on the future of Europe, the European experiment?
I think, like a lot of European, probably I'm wondering whether this Europe as we know it and as we've known it for the past few decades is going to survive that crisis. I think it's too early to say. One thing for sure is that healthcare is not European. I would say responsibility. I mean, healthcare is not managed at European level. It is the responsibilities of the nation state, and so that's also why we see so many different reaction and consequences. Obviously, if you compare Germany and Italy and France and all these kind of things. Europe was definitely slow to coordinate. But then again, I'm not a specialist of the European policies and arcanes of the superstructure, European superstructure and technocratic type of thing. But I don't think they were prepared, and it was not also in their job scope to be prepared. From my understanding, I could be wrong, but from what I understand. But they still tried to react. One thing for sure is that they have been much quicker to react on the financial aspect of it, despite some errors at the first few days, even when Madame Lagarde made some declaration the first few days, but she come back into it. But within a week or two, they managed to come up with a €100 of billions package, which was not the case in 2008, 2009. If you remember, it took them months, if not years, to come back to come up with with some kind of package. So I think they've been much faster on that point. After that, definitely there will be social and political consequences. Economic, obviously, but not only the economy. I mean, social and politic, because a lot of people are questioning this the raison d'être of this European community that's been already under the spotlight for a few years. A lot of people are not so happy about Europe. They're wondering what is Europe there, except for imposing some standards and imposing some additional laws and all this. So that's the way a lot of people are perceiving the European community. So they could be discussion about that. For example, also the 2 weeks ago, it's been decided that the famous 3% deficit mark was not going to be imposed on the budget.
Right.
So when something comes like this happens, the question is that can you go back to what was before, or is the exceptional measure become
the rule, the new rule?
The rule. Yes. The rule. It's true in terms of economics like this, and then there are also discussion about privacy policies, and so that's something that we're gonna have to follow. Well, after that, Europe is like the rest of the world. They are good. They are companies in sound companies with good products, good services. I have friends in Europe and in France in particular. Some of them, the business has stopped. Some of them, they carry on, and they actually have opportunities. One of my friends is running quite a large painting supplier. They are supplying paint to professionals mostly. Well, his production unit is decided to keep it open. The staff, his employees are willing to work. Basically, is still supplying some of the stores in France. Yeah. And they have opportunities they never had before, because like supermarkets and big stores are closed. So they were not in the retail business, and they are not in the retail business. However, end users, individuals like you and me, cannot buy their product in the usual specific supermarket, so they go to the professional. So basically,
yes,
you see what I mean? It's the way you look at it. If you want to carry on, and you want to you're willing to also, you have to be agile. To come back to the first question, agility. Today, I think you have to be agile, and that Fred, I think, is agile. He look at it and say, okay, we need to change a few things in the production line. But by doing that, we can supply different products, and at the end, they're selling. So instead of doing minus 90% turnover, you might be doing minus 40. which is exceptional when you think about it. When everyone else is doing minus 90, and you can do minus 40, not that bad. So that's an interesting example of how you can react to this kind of situation.
Okay. Let's jump back into Singapore. Let's bring it back home now.
Yeah.
So what is your outlook for Singapore and for businesses in Singapore? General.
Well, Singapore, we are, there's, it depends again. Depends if you are, what kind of industry.
Yeah.
Obviously, F&B, retail, that's really hard.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a lot of restaurants and F&B outlets might just close down. You know, when you cannot work for a month or more. Retail was already struggling before, so definitely it's gonna be tough for them. The rest of the activities, industrial, obviously, I mean, depends when you say the industry, when you put inside there. Oil and gas, looking at what's happening also in the oil market, that again they may be struggling. For the exports, that come back to what we were doing. We still have, I think 30% of Singapore GDP is still industrial. We sometimes from outside we look at Singapore as a service-based economy, only like bank and all this, but there's still a lot of industry. So obviously, hopefully, they will be able to get back in business as soon as possible. Given that Singapore has not completely stopped the economy, compared to some other country, there are a few parts of the country that are still running, which I think is it's a good thing. And for the rest, I think in terms about, if you look at biotech, pharmaceutical, obviously that should be okay, because we realize that there's definitely that an industry that we need them. Education, education, yes, that's also they are taking a hit right now, because if I look at some of the school or international learning center or international schools, they have to close, and the foreign students went back to their home country.
Exactly.
When are they gonna come back?
Exactly.
If you are in an international business school in Singapore, where more than 50% of your students are coming from overseas, even if you open tomorrow, you may get some of your local students, but what about the international students? That's going to be a bit difficult. On the other hand, we have fantastic infrastructure here. You see, in terms of if it comes to communication and whatever is something, e-commerce, e-learning, e-banking, obviously we have a lot to do. There is a startup world here that is quite vibrant. So I can see that a lot of these companies are, again, they are turned towards taking opportunities of the situation. So they come up with products and solutions that maybe we didn't think about before. What else? Well, I think again, Singapore is resilient. Like I said, we've been through many crises, and we managed to come out of it. Singapore government has announced a lot of support policies. I think there's been altogether, we're talking about probably, you can correct me, but $35 billion altogether. And if you add up everything, it could be even more. So that's probably quite a lot. For,
it is.
Yeah, it's probably even more. I think we're probably even talking about 10% of GDP or something like that in one shot. So it's that's a good thing in a sense. It's going to help. It's going to help the economy, and also a lot of it is going to the people. So the people, between bracket, also the consumer.
Yes.
Because they're gonna, you know, so there is a support for the enterprises and for the population. So I think that's a good thing. But then again, like we mentioned, to restart, when you know that Singapore Airlines has 97% of their planes
Grounded.
on the ground.
Yeah.
That's going to be also a challenge to restart. Hotels will be probably half empty for the next few months. So let's see. Very, challenging for sure for Singapore. And if we cannot travel, imagine also, that's the other thing. We are so small, and you know, we spend, most of us, we've been spending our life traveling here and there.
Exactly.
And it's not because we come out from the lockdown in Singapore that again we're going to be able to travel and people are going to be able to come and see us. I think probably up to September or October is going to be technically open, but I don't think much is going to happen.
Yeah. So it will be a slow recovery in the near term, while we see how things go.
Let's see. We're all hoping for a V shape, but I don't know.
Right. Okay, Stephane, thank you very much. You've given us a lot of food for thought, and I like your message is optimistic. Not just Singapore, but many economies and many businesses that are resilient. We've been through challenges before, and no doubt we'll rise again. Stephane, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me. Have a nice day.
All right.